Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to this 22-minute webinar, Design to Manufacture with SOLIDWORKS Inspection for MBD. My name is Allison Savell and I'll be your host for today. Let's jump right in and get started. We have a lot to cover in 22 minutes. Just a couple of quick items to go over before we get started. First, using GoToWebinar, please notice the full screen button to move in and out of full screen mode. We do suggest using full screen mode. If you have questions during the presentation, please enter them into the questions section, not the chat section. We'll be answering these at the end of the presentation. Also, we'll have several poll questions to keep things interactive. We ask that you answer these multiple choice questions quickly so we can keep within our time frame. I'll let everyone know the results as well. Please note that we are recording this webinar and we will make this available after the session in a follow-up email that will likely happen tomorrow. And with that, I want to introduce you to our rockstar presenter today. With us, we have Matthew Forcade, who is our Senior SOLIDWORKS Portfolio Manager working in product management. Matt, it's all you.
Thank you, Alison. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. So today we're going to see how you can streamline your quality control with SOLIDWORKS Inspection and MBD. So in this webinar, we're going to be talking about inspection, which is part of our SOLIDWORKS Design to Manufacturing solution. We have many products that are part of those solutions that let you go from conceptual design all the way to production. And this is part of an ongoing series of webinars. So we already covered SOLIDWORKS CAM, and there will be follow-up webinars on SOLIDWORKS Composer and SOLIDWORKS MBD. When I get to visit customers, what strikes me is, everybody's kind of doing things slightly their own way when it comes to creating inspection reports. But most of the times it looks like something you have on screen here. You have this Excel spreadsheet or this inspection sheets with all the different characteristics of a part that needs to be inspected, usually with nominal value, tolerances, comments, inspection method, and things like that. In addition to this, you often have a 2D print with balloons on it to indicate and reference what characteristic needs to be inspected. Most of the time, our customers are using those for first article inspection, internal in-process inspection, and incoming and receiving inspection. They have many reasons to do those documents. Depending on the industry they're in, it's often part of safety and regulation. If you think, for example, in the aeronautic industry about AS9102 report, they are often created in those industries. If you are, for example, working for a Boeing supplier, if you're a Boeing supplier, for example, you often have to create those reports as well. And we have many customers that also use those to improve product quality, reliability, and also in cases where they have to tackle challenges such as high volume production, high precision manufacturing, and things like that. Now let's start with the first poll question.
All right. Do you perform quality inspection on your parts? Please select and we'll get ready to. All right. Give it a second. Okay, close, share. All right, almost 80% of you say yes. All right, go ahead, Matt.
All right, wonderful. So traditionally, when it comes to creating inspection reports, what we see many of our customers doing is to go really through a 2D drawing, and they manually start ballooning the drawing, indicating on the drawing the characteristics that need to be inspected. And once they've done all this, they have to transpose all that information into an inspection report, add all the nominal value, and of course, calculate the upper and lower limits to have a complete inspection report. Now, of course, not only you have to do this for one view, you have to do this for multiple views of your
All right, I'm going to close it. Oh, 87% say manually. Go ahead, Matt.
To create those reports very quickly. But now if you leverage SOLIDWORKS MBD, you can create your inspection report even faster by simply reusing those product and manufacturing information that are available directly on top of your 3D geometry. So you can leverage your 3D data and create your inspection report even faster. So let's take a look at all this. So here what we have is a SOLIDWORKS model. And as you can see, I already have lots of different information directly on the geometry, dimensions, hole callouts, and so on. I use SOLIDWORKS MBD to create a couple of different 3D views, each of them with different type of annotations. I'm going to go back to the front view here, and again, as you can see, I already have a lot of information that define all those different views. Now, directly within SOLIDWORKS, I can use SOLIDWORKS Inspection and select one of my templates that retrieve a lot of the different predefined settings I have, and very quickly create my inspection reports. The first step is always specifying the project properties, such as a part name, the part number, the revision, things that will typically be on some of the pages of your inspection reports. Now, since we are leveraging our 3D data from SOLIDWORKS, I can simply reuse any of the custom properties, or I can use some of the list I've predefined to quickly select a vendor, type a job number, and things like that. I can even define some sampling information, and for example, in this case, we're simply going to pick an AQL of 1. The next step, the most interesting one, is the step where you define everything that you want to have in your report, such as dimension, hole callouts, and so on. It's just a matter of clicking and choosing what you want in your report. Then you can click Next, and the software is automatically going to go over all the different views and add the bubbles directly on the 3D geometry. On the top left, I have my bill of characteristics with all the different characteristics that will end up in my reports once I export this. And as you can see, I can navigate through the different views to see all the different characteristics that were selected for inspection. I can always reorganize things a little bit, move the dimensions, the balloons, and things like that. For each of the characteristics that will be on my report, I can do a number of different things. I can, of course, mark any of those as key characteristics, things that might be a little bit more critical that need to be inspected differently or keep track over time. I can even define a separate balloon shape for those key characteristics. And of course, I can override the tolerances, add a comment if needed, specify things such as the operation, the classification, or things such as the method of inspection, for example. And in a lot of cases, those values, operation, method of inspection, can be saved in a list so that you can standardize across your company. You can, of course, customize the balloon shapes and color. So, for example, in this case, we're modifying the key characteristic balloon shape to an hexagon, and we add in a prefix as well, so that it's even more clear when you look at the different views. And the software is automatically go over the entire 3D model and just update those different bubbles. So just like that, my inspection report is pretty much done and created. And the next thing I need to do is create some deliverables. I can create 2D PDF, 3D PDF drawings, e-drawings. And of course, I can also create my inspection sheet in Excel. And now the beauty with SOLIDWORKS Inspection is you can completely customize those. So for example, in this case, I've predefined some conditional formatting so that as I type the result directly in my Excel reports, I directly have this green-red visual feedback. But I could also add some more information, my company logo, or more complex Excel formulas. Now, I also want to take advantage of SOLIDWORKS MBD to really consolidate everything into one file. So in this case, I'm creating a 3D PDF I'm selecting the view that I want in this 3D PDF as well as the template I want to use. And I can even attach to this 3D PDF my inspection report along with step 242 file with the geometry. So now I went all the way to create this inspection report, and everything is included in one file, a 3D PDF that all the information I need, and I can easily share that, for example, with the folks in the quality department or with my suppliers and things like that. So we have the 3D PDF now on screen, and as you can see, you have all the different views that I've selected with all the different annotations, the bubbles, and so on. You can at any time rotate the geometry or change the different views. And if you go to the attachment, you will find your 3D model along with your inspection report. Now, SOLIDWORKS Inspection also includes a separate standalone application that allows you to work with other type of file format, not just SOLIDWORKS file. So in here, I can actually work with something like a TF file like I have on screen, a per-engineer file, a PDF, DXF, DWG file, and so on. And as you can see, the behavior is exactly the same. I can go through the different views, and I can quickly extract all the information, all the product and manufacturing information that were directly in the geometry. It's as simple as the box selecting them to add them to your report. And as we saw previously, I can, of course, at any time modify some of the information, add comments, and things like that. Now, the other thing that is great with this interface is I can link with quality systems, or I can even work with measurement devices. So if I have, for example, a USB caliper plug into my computer or my tablet, I can not only manually type the measurements or keywords such as pass, fail, and marginal, but I could also plug directly a USB caliper, press on a button, and it will, of course, input the value automatically. I can have different sets of results, and at any time when I type measurements, all that information is available on screen, so you always have this visual feedback that tell you when the information, if the measurement is within specification or not. And finally, you can import results from a number of different CMM machines. In this case, we're importing 3 sets of result files, and as you can see here, all the result files are then extracted, parsed, and I could then assign those measurements directly to my project to again consolidate everything into one file with not only the inspection project, but the actual measurements that were taken by people in the quality department. So to summarize, SOLIDWORKS Inspection has a lot of different benefits. Of course, you can use the integrated model inside SOLIDWORKS to really streamline your quality control processes and create those inspection reports very quickly. Most of the customers we talked to mentioned time saving of up to 90% by simply automating this process. As you saw in the previous video we had, doing all this manually can take an awful lot of time. We work with a lot of different file formats. We can handle, revision process, engineering change order, and so on to update your inspection project every time you have a new version of your 3D model or drawing. And finally, as you saw, we can also integrate with common measuring tool, use the caliper, and import results from CMM machines as well. And at any time when you're ready, you can create all those deliverables. So completely customizable inspection reports, 2D or 3D PDF, and even export to some of the quality systems that are partners of SOLIDWORKS Inspection.
All right.
With that being said, let's go through a third poll question.
All right, let's launch the third one. Is your manufacturing process affected by quality issues? Give it a second. Almost 90% of you said yes. All right, back to you, Matt.
Thank you. And just to wrap this up, I also wanted to mention that we're very fortunate at SOLIDWORKS to have an amazing partner programs. We have a lot of different partners that help us, in this design to manufacturing solutions. One of them, for example, is Checkmate from Origin International that lets you program CMM machine directly from your SOLIDWORKS interface. So that's something you can leverage as well to really streamline that entire process and help with your quality issue. Not only creating the inspection reports very quickly, but also program the CMM machine to then import those results back in inspection and tie the loop really. And to finish, again, this is all part of a design to manufacturing solution. The goal has always been at SOLIDWORKS to integrate all those tools together so you can streamline from design to manufacturing, and of course, work concurrently between design and manufacturing, all within a single interface. So thank you very much for your time. We're going to go through 2 more poll questions, and after that, we'll open up for questions. Thank you very much.
All right. So what's your level of interest with SOLIDWORKS and inspection? If you can just answer that real quick. All right. I'm going to close that. And then would you like any further information from us? All right. All right. We'll now open it up for questions.
All right, let me go through the first question. A question from Paul. Can part number, name, and revision be auto-populated from the part property, custom properties you have in part? The answer is yes. Another question from Paul. How does this feature integrate with EPDM? So we just developed and released a PDM integration. So you can manage the deliverables and things like that directly with PDM. So I'm going through some of the questions. Question from Chris regarding the use of SOLIDWORKS files directly in the standalone application of inspection, the separate application that is not running inside SOLIDWORKS. Chris is wondering if we can open SOLIDWORKS file directly in that user interface. And to answer your question, Chris, it's something we're working on as we speak. It's not there yet, but we can already support a number of 3D file formats in addition to 2D formats such as PDF and DXF files. Question from Don. We are a fabrication facility. Can this software help us? We do not currently do inspection. We do not have a quality manager or department. I think it really depends, the challenge you're facing. We have many customers are, just like yourself, just doing fabrication, or suppliers. And of course, some of them do inspection, some of them don't. There's a lot of benefits about doing inspection directly at your location. If you have problems with machine not being calibrated, for example, properly, by doing in-process inspection, you'll be able to identify those issues faster. It's also always, better to do those kind of inspection right away, as opposed to, making a bunch of parts, sending them to somebody that's buying them, and just to realize that you had issues, and then you have to go back and fix that, and so on. So, depending on the workflows you have, there's a lot of cases where it makes a lot of sense to implement some of those, quality practices in place. Question from Jim. Is SOLIDWORKS MBD a separate package, or is it included with a standard license of SOLIDWORKS? Jim, the MBD is actually a separate license, but you can add DMExpert dimension directly in SOLIDWORKS standard. Full MBD will give you additional capabilities, such as the ability to create 3D views, create 3D PDF template, export to 3D PDF, and so on. Question from Ken. Do this work with PolyWorks? So Ken, to answer your question, we have many customers that use PolyWorks to program their CMM machine, and we can import the results from PolyWorks CMM machines. Question from Andrew, will this interface with windshield? And I think the general question is, will SOLIDWORKS Inspection interface with, the quality system or PLM software and things like that? To answer that question, we actually can export our inspection project to XML, which then gives you the ability to do some custom programming and to import that XML into your PLM software to track some of that. And of course, if you're using a PDM solution, then you have access to a lot of things directly out of the box. Question from Roy. What do you do if you have a third-party supplier that do your inspection? We have a lot of customers in that scenarios, or for example, we have customers that manufacture, I'm thinking about a customer in particular that was manufacturing in China, and they were doing the inspection, but the customer wanted to create those reports internally so that they can then require the suppliers to fill them. And it's kind of almost a legal agreement, between you and your supplier, where they will be required to inspect a certain number of parts out of a lot using that particular inspection report. And of course, you're then expecting them to send those reports along or file them in your PLM system or something like that. So it can make sense to delegate the actual inspection work, but still drive, what's important for you, what needs to be inspected, and so on. Question from Paul, can you calculate CPK and display statistical data? You cannot do this directly within SOLIDWORKS Inspection. We do have some partners that that can integrate with SOLIDWORKS Inspection and do that, calculate capability charts, CPK, and so on. I've also seen some customer doing that directly within SOLIDWORKS Excel. So they export everything to Excel, including the measurements, and then they have some macros, the tabs of Excel to automatically calculate, CPK, control charts, and so on. Question from Ninad, can you get results from imported solids, not native or parametric files? The answer is no. When it comes to working with measurement data, it has to be measurement data from, let's say, a CMM machine. This is not a solution that will let you at this point compare, for example, scan result with the actual geometry. We have other partners, products that let you do that, but that's not something SOLIDWORKS Inspection will be able to do. Question from Ralph, basically, is this available on network license? The answer is yes. Question from Frederick, can you run MBD on a tablet? And to answer that question, we have a lot of people here at the office that use Microsoft Surface, for example, and there's many tablets from Lenovo, HP, and Dell, and you can totally run SOLIDWORKS and MBD and inspection on those tablets. Question from Justin, is this best used for first article inspection? The answer is yes, but we also have a lot of customers that use it for inspection planning and for in-process inspection, where they will create inspection reports for each operation and things like that. So it really depends on your workflow and your needs. So let me go through more questions here. There's a question about getting a video of the recording, and so as Alison mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we'll send a follow-up email tomorrow with access to the full recording. Question from Keith, does this work with CATIA file? The answer is yes. Actually, we saw a video of that. It's in the standard application. You can work with CATIA file, PRORI file, and do assemblies as well as parts. And we import all the geometry as well as the product and manufacturing information, and we can extract all that type of information. Question from Veronica, how do I know what kind of report I should use? It's a good question. It's often driven by the industry or by agreement that you might have with people you're working with. So, for example, in the aeronautic industry, it's pretty simple. Everybody using the same format. AS9102. It's a very, very good format, and you can always start there. And then we have larger companies that have some very, very specific and customized type of reports that they build, over the years based on feedbacks from, the customers and internal people and so on. So, it's often an ongoing process for companies. Some companies just use standard format, and some companies customize them a lot, again, based on the need. Question from Paul. Can part made with a design table use this? So that's something, it really depends, how the design table is used. For example, if the design table is copy and paste from an Excel document inside a SOLIDWORKS drawing, we'll not be able to extract the information. We're working on improving this because we have several customers that use design table. So that's something we're looking into. And in some cases, we were able to provide workarounds for our existing customers. But again, we'll need to look specifically at how this looks in your drawing and see if we can find something that works. So, question from Chris: can we import customer-specific format? Example: Toyota ISR format. I assume this is a type of inspection reports internal to Toyota. And the answer to that is really simple. In most of the time, it's yes, simply because you can as a customer completely customize those inspection reports. So we have a little tool that lets you open an Excel template and completely customize it to your need. Add columns, remove columns, change the formatting, add formulas, conditional formatting, macros, logos, whatever you need, and then you can use those templates directly with SOLIDWORKS Inspection. And that's a big thing for us because we recognize everybody's doing things a little bit differently, and we don't want you to be stuck with a specific format. So really, you can use that template to completely customize those reports to your liking. Question from G's. Does all holes, features, and GD&T transfer automatically? And the answer is yes.
All right, we'll give it 2 more questions, Matt, and then we'll wrap up.
All right, 2 more questions. Yeah, because there's a bunch here, and of course, we'll try to follow up with everybody after this webinar. If we didn't get a chance to answer all the questions. Question from John: is SOLIDWORKS Inspection part of the same license? And it's actually a separate product, so it's not part of your SOLIDWORKS CAD license. And another question from John, which kind of goes with also a question from Mark, regarding the kind of formats you can work with. Some people, are mentioning here in the question that they only get the step files. Some people also get CATIA files and so on. So you should check with us because, of course, we support a number of different file formats. So ideally, we'll want to work directly with the file format that you have. If you're just getting a step file with no information on it, you will probably have to go through the trouble of recreating those PMIs. But again, we showed you here the example of working directly with 3D geometry, but we also support SOLIDWORKS, drawings and PDF documents where we can use optical character recognition to extract information, as well as DXF, DWG. So we do support a number of file formats, and we're continuously working on adding more formats to the list of files that we support. So check with us, and hopefully we can find something that works. With that being said, thank you all for your time today, and as I mentioned, we'll try to follow up with everybody and answer everybody's question.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.